Jack. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
No.
not real well.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll try and talk really loud and talk right into the microphone. A year or so ago, Bonnie gave a talk at Brown Bag Lunch about Mary Spitzer and how her daughter Francelia Spitzer had written down her mother's memories that reached back almost to the founding of our country. Bonnie mentioned then that Francelia Spitzer and her husband, Dr. D.N. Spitzer, should be in our Jackson County Hall of Fame. After researching this busy couple, it's clear that they offered much to the life of Maquoketa and Jackson County citizens. Here is a short summary of some of their accomplishments. First, we'll focus on Dr. Spitzer and afterwards Francelia Spitzer. Early life and medical practice in Zwingle. David Nathaniel Spitzer was born in Myerstown, Lebanon County, Pennsylvania on February 6, 1855 to William and Catherine Pfeiffer Spitzer. He attended primary school at Myerstown Academy in his hometown. One of his clearest memories is the sound of cannon fire from the Civil War's Battle of Gettysburg, which could be heard at his Myerstown home. Here is a map of central Pennsylvania where Myerstown is.
Oh, why don't you go ahead and tell about the cannon fire and then we'll...
Gettysburg, by our estimation, is approximately 40 to 45 miles to the southwest. So it is amazing that he could hear the artillery fire, and he was only 8 years old at the time. His undergraduate education was at Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where he graduated with a BA degree in 1874. While attending Franklin and Marshall College, Horace Greeley addressed the student body and repeated his famous phrase, "Go west, young man, go west." This, he felt, was a factor which later guided him to Michigan and then to Iowa as a young physician. He entered the medical department of the University of Pennsylvania and graduated as a medical doctor on March 12, 1877. His first practice was in Quincy, Michigan, and lasted a few months. He heard from a cousin that the people of Zwingle, Iowa needed a physician. So on October 30th, 1877, Dr. Spitzer packed his belongings in a buggy, hitched up his faithful mare Peggy, and set out for Iowa. And you can see that was a long route in a horse and buggy. He arrived on November 9th and found the residents of Zwingle and the surrounding farm families to be pleasant and grateful people. Dr. Spitzer quickly became a popular and respected physician. And this is a map of downtown Zwingle, or a picture of downtown Zwingle at the time, and you can see the train engine over there on the left. From a Jackson Sentinel newspaper dated June 1878 comes this quote: "Dr. D.N. Spitzer, a young physician from Pennsylvania, has been residing at Zwingle during the past 6 months. He is gaining quite a reputation as a physician and surgeon, and has been very successful in treating several very critical cases of dropsy, etc." Also from the Jackson Sentinel from June of 1879, Dr. D.N. Spitzer, Zwingle's best physician, gave us a few minutes of his valuable time last Tuesday. The doctor is one among the best educated physicians in the county. His thoroughness in every branch of the profession and skillful treatment is securing him a large practice. During these early days of his medical career, Dr. Spitzer experienced many difficult trips to farm homes to see patients in blizzards and over all types of conditions of the roads. In those days, of course, the roads were mostly dirt. He once stated that a few cigars could persuade an engineer to let him off the train near the farm home of a patient. This was, of course, it was, of course, the new narrow gauge railroad from Bellevue to Cascade. And shown in this picture is the Zwingle Depot where he would have gotten on the train. Dr. Luce began making plans to move to Maquoketa and submitted his name to become the coroner of Jackson County in the November 1881 election. Dr. Luce he won the election and became coroner, a position he held from 1882 to 1886. In the summer of 1882, Dr. Luce moved his medical practice from Zwingle to Maquoketa and opened a drugstore on the west side of South Main Street. The City Drug Store. Dr. Luce and John Nitschke from Dubuque opened the City Drug Store, as it was known, at 126 South Main Street. The business was owned by D.N. Luce and Company. The drugstore sold a wide variety of goods, which included, but was not limited to, books, art supplies, stationery, school supplies, Christmas novelties, Sherwin-Williams paint, machine oil, perfume, the best nickel cigar in town, soap and window glass, etc. And this is a picture of the drugstore, and it's thought that that might be Dr. Luce standing in front, but we aren't sure. So, and he advertised in the newspaper, and he advertised every day, every week in the newspaper, and so this is just a few of the ads, but there would be ads in every newspaper. And our latest artifact to come to our museum is from the owner of Mr. Nitschke's house, who found this in her basement, Carolyn Alinger, and she has donated this to the Historical Society. And this is a sign that hung in the drugstore. Sherwin-Williams paint has been around a long time. So that is just a wonderful artifact from the drugstore. Thank you, Carol. During the 1880s, the Iowa legislature more or less experimented with laws concerning temperance. At that time, alcohol was the most common medicinal agent and was essential for pharmacies to use as a solvent for their medicinal preparations. In 1888, the legislature passed a bill that restricted the sales of alcohol for all purposes to only licensed pharmacists. On April 20, 1888, the druggists of Jackson County met to discuss this new law. The group wanted to adopt a united course of action for all Jackson County druggists. Dr. Luce offered the following motion: that we, the pharmacists of Jackson County, hereby mutually agree not to handle intoxicating liquors under the new law as amended and passed by the 22nd General Assembly. The motion carried by unanimous vote of the group. And it's in the second paragraph there. Dr. Luce offered the following, and there was some kind of minutes from that meeting. Emery Hinckley, Hugo Stack, and Edward Lukish all worked as clerks in Dr. Luce's drugstore prior to advancing their education. So Dr. Luce was their mentor as they apprenticed at his drugstore. After professional school graduation, all three returned to Maquoketa as pharmacists. In 1907, Hugo Stack bought Dr. Luce's share of the store, so it became the Nitschke and Stack drugstore. Mr. Nitschke sold his share of the store to Edward Lukish in 1914. And that's the same store, a few different things in the window, but Emery Hinckley and Hugo Stack are standing in front of the store. Dr. Luce as the physician. In 1889, Dr. Luce built an addition onto his drugstore. His medical office was on the second floor above the drugstore. In addition to seeing patients in his office and making emergency visits in this town and the neighboring area, Dr. Luce served on several boards and in medical groups. He even served once as acting sheriff for a short time. His activities as a member of the medical community began in 1885 during his term as county coroner, when he also served 4 years on the Board of Examining Surgeons for U.S. pensions in Jackson County. Back then, in order to receive a pension as a military veteran, the pension board had to certify that the individual was qualified to do so. He also served on the County Board of Insane Commissioners, whose job it was to determine who needed to be committed to the county insane asylum. He was the local surgeon for the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railroad for many years, and a member of the Iowa State Medical Society. In 1899, Dr. Luce was appointed to conduct the physical examinations of applicants for enlistment in the 49th Regiment of the Iowa National Guard. Dr. Luce was active in the Jackson County Medical Society and served as its secretary and vice president. In 1886, he was elected president of the society. He was president again in 1919, when the society set uniform rates for services across the county for office visits and house calls. These are quite interesting. Office examinations were set at $2 and up. A house call during the day in town was also $2. A house call in the county during the day was $2 plus $1 per mile traveled one way. An obstetrics case without complication was $20. And all the physicians in the county went along with this. So it was, yeah. The Jackson County Public Health Association was formed in 1921 for the purpose of promoting community and personal health. Major activities of this organization were combating tuberculosis, public health education, and establishing the county health nurse program. Dr. Luce served as its first president from 1921 to 1931. In December of 1921, a parade was held in Maquoketa to kick off Christmas seal sales to fight against tuberculosis. The first car carried Mayor Swift and Dr. Luce. In June of 1922, the Dubuque Telegraph-Herald had an article about the movement in Iowa to improve rural health care. The article stated, "The movement in Jackson County grew out of the activities of a single individual, Dr. David N. Luce of Maquoketa, who, in the early stages of the campaign, paid the expenses of a nurse and other necessary expenditures, representing no mean sum in total." Dr. Luce's civic contributions. Dr. Luce participated in many charitable and civic groups. In 1889, Dr. Luce chaired the committee for the 4th of July celebration for all of Jackson County. And this is quite the program. But you can see under where it's highlighted in yellow, executive committee was Dr. Luce chairperson, and they had quite, grease pole climbing and pole jumping, laughable and funny contest, apple eating, pie eating, cracker eating. I don't know, I've never heard of cracker eating. So that was quite a celebration for 4th of July. Sometime around 1910, Dr. Luce was an officer in an organization called the Up to Date Club, which we couldn't find any information about. He served on the board of directors of the American Savings Bank for several years and was president of the board in 1920 and 21. This bank opened in 1920 and closed in 1931 because of the Depression. But you can see there's a savings bank statement. This was published in the newspaper, and Dr. Luce was the president, and several others signed that they had seen all this information from the bank. Dr. Luce supported the Starving Babies Fund and the Good Fellowship Club for Christmas needs for the less fortunate. And I thought this was very interesting that the Starving Babies Fund was, all of the donors were printed in the paper, and not only their names, but how much they gave. Dr. Luce, I think it's $5, or is it $3? But anyway, everybody that gave and got their, that would make you give, I don't know if that would make you give more or give less. I don't know. A branch of the Chautauqua Literary and Scientific Circle was organized in Maquoketa, and Dr. Luce was elected vice president. Dr. Luce served as president and vice president of the Improvement Union. In 1921, he served on the Salvation Army Board. He gave several educational medical talks to public organizations. Let's see. The Maquoketa Kiwanis Club was chartered in June of 1921 with 71 members. Dr. Luce was elected its first president. In July 1921, a local newspaper wrote, "Dr. Luce makes a dandy president and keeps the ball rolling from curtain to curtain." The Kiwanis Club was forced to disband in 1931 due to the Depression, when too many of its members had to drop out. Maquoketa Cave State Park was enlarged in 1933. Dr. and Mrs. Luce served on the committee which enabled this to happen. Okay, the Maquoketa Public Library. The first library in Maquoketa was a subscription library which was funded privately with membership fees or endowments, with access restricted to members only. But the books had no home. William C. Boardman stipulated in his will that $5,000 be used to found a library for Maquoketa on the condition that it should be named the Boardman Library Institute and be a regular incorporation with capital stock of not less than $5,000. Mr. Boardman died in 1884, and the Boardman Library Institute came into existence. Dr. Luce was on the board of directors and a stockholder for the library, but it still had no building to store the 4,000 books. There were 150 patrons who paid between 50 cents and $2 to be members of that library. Dr. Luce purchased the lot at the corner of Pleasant and 2nd Street, hoping that it would someday be a site for a library. When it was learned that the steel magnate, Andrew Carnegie, was making gifts for the building of libraries, Maquoketa people decided to seek one of these gifts to build their own library. Mayor Stevens appointed a board of trustees, which included Dr. Luce. They held their first meeting in May of 1902. Dr. Luce sold the lot he had previously purchased to the city for $800 and deeded it as the public library site. He also contributed $50 along with other Maquoketa businessmen for this purchase. And this is found in the archives of the state library. And these, go back to the previous one. All these businessmen contributed $50 until they got to $800 and they purchased the lot. Dr. Luce, of course, he contributed his $50. Mr. Nitchie also, Swigert Brothers, what are some other names that were, Charles Gallagher, some names I can't read. Anyway, all those people contributed to buy the library site. During the building project, Dr. Luce served as liaison between the Carnegie organization and the Maquoketa group. And this is a letter from the Iowa Library Commission hoping to get information to them about how to build the library, what plans to use and things like that. And Dr. Luce is mentioned there in the third line. They're learning through Miss Dunham and Dr. Luce of the progress of library affairs in Maquoketa. And this also shows that Maquoketa received $10,000 initially, and then later on another $2,500 to build the library. And as I mentioned, Dr. Luce was the liaison between the Carnegie people and the city. Okay. The library construction was completed and was dedicated on January 19th, 1904. And that's the program from the dedication of the library. Dr. Luce continued serving on the library board of trustees for several years. And there's a picture of the library early on with its first librarian, Ida Simpson. In 1942, he established the Francelia Luce Memorial Book Fund in the amount of $4,000, and in 1952 he presented a gift of $6,000 in bonds to the library to be used as the board saw fit. So he supported the library his whole life. Okay, Dr. Luce, faithful church member. Dr. Luce became a member of the Congregational Church in Maquoketa in 1887. And this is a picture of the church a long time ago. Today it is the United Church of Christ on East Platte. In 1917, he was listed as a church trustee and served for many years in that capacity. He often held trustee meetings in the morning before his office hours in his office. He served as a delegate to state church conferences. In 1938, he was elected deacon and served in that role for several years. At the church's 80th anniversary celebration in 1943, he gave a speech regarding the history of the church for the centennial celebration. In honor of his many years of faithful service, he was elected deacon emeritus for life in 1946, with at least 35 years of serving on church boards. One of the few pictures that we have of Dr. Luce, I don't know if he was camera shy or what, but we just don't have pictures of him. So we have a couple that are from the newspaper, and that's about it. Okay, Grinnell College received a $100,000 gift from Dr. Luce that was used to build a woman's dormitory in memory of Francelia. The dorm opened in 1947 and is called Luce Hall. It is still being used as a dormitory and was reopened this fall after undergoing renovation and remodeling. The only connection that we can find between the Luces and Grinnell College is that the college was founded by ministers of the Congregational Church, as they were not alumni of the college. Okay, the hospital. Several private hospitals served the people of Maquoketa through the years. City Memorial Hospital opened in 1920 and closed in 1946. The Leroy Hospital opened in 1937 and closed in 1945. The closings were mostly attributed to the shortage of nurses as a result of World War II. Between 1946 and 1948, there was no hospital in Maquoketa. Patients were admitted to hospitals in Clinton, Davenport, or Dubuque. This was a very inconvenient situation for the patients' families and the doctors who had to travel daily to treat and evaluate their patients. One obituary stated that Dr. Luce was one of the key figures in advocating for the erection of a county hospital here. An article from the Clinton Herald regarding the new hospital from May 11, 1950, stated that the need for a county hospital received considerable discussion by the Maquoketa Planning Committee late in 1945 at the special urging of Dr. D.N. Luce, retired 90-year-old physician. So although we couldn't find anything written in black and white, we know that Dr. Luce was instrumental in getting our county hospital built. The new hospital, seen here, at the northwest edge of Maquoketa, opened on May 16, 1950. One of the first patients admitted was none other than Dr. Luce, who was reported to be resting comfortably after falling on the courthouse steps. Personal life travels and retirements. Dr. David Luce married Francelia Spitzer in Medina, Ohio in 1883. As a local newspaper stated, they have taken up their abode in the newly fitted rooms over the city drugstore. The couple had no children. Late in 1892, Dr. and Mrs. Luce bought the George Reitmeyer property at 413 West Pleasant Street for $1,900. Mr. Reitmeyer retained the house that was on the lot and moved it to another lot he owned. And Dr. Luce built his new house on the lot in 1893-94. The new house cost $10,000 and featured many modern conveniences of the time, such as a steam heating system. The carriage house contained a turntable so the doctor could make certain his mode of transportation was always ready to go at a moment's notice. The house and carriage house are still standing, although the turntable has been removed from the carriage house. And that's a picture out of the newspaper from earlier. I don't remember what year that was taken. But Dr. Luce officially retired from his medical practice in 1935 at the age of 80. He had served the people of Jackson County for 58 years. Even in retirement, he continued medical reading and kept abreast of new developments in medicine. Dr. Luce traveled extensively to visit friends and relatives and for vacations and medical conferences. He and his wife visited New Orleans, Hawaii, California, Florida, and other places. They made several trips back east to Ohio and Pennsylvania to visit relatives. Dr. Luce particularly enjoyed traveling by airplane. In his later years, he would spend his winters in the Orlando, Florida area until his death in January of 1952. In April of 1950 in Orlando, he was recognized as the oldest alumni of Franklin and Marshall College, and this picture shows him receiving that award. Dr. Luce's funeral was held on what would have been his 97th birthday, February 6, 1952, at the Congregational Church in Maquoketa. He was laid to rest with his wife in the Mount Hope Cemetery Mausoleum in Maquoketa. And this obituary, I'll give you a couple minutes to read this. It gives a nice short account of his life, some things that I haven't mentioned in my talk. Especially there towards the bottom, just prior to World War I, Dr. Luce went to Vienna, Austria for postgraduate work and returned here to practice afterward. He also returned east in 1884 for further medical schooling at Johns Hopkins University. So he did a lot of studying. Okay, we'll turn to Francelia. Francelia Spitzer was born in Medina, Ohio on July 3, 1859 to Garrett and Mary Branch Spitzer. She attended Oberlin College in Oberlin, Ohio, and graduated in 1879. She came to Wyoming, Iowa to visit a sister who was married to Captain A.M. Loomis, a veteran of the Civil War. Through the influence of the captain, who made application in her name, Francelia was elected to a position in the Maquoketa High School, where she taught Latin from 1880 to 1883. She also served as one of the 2 assistant high school principals for a time. Miss Spitzer resigned from her teaching position in September of 1883, prior to her wedding, as was common in that era. So Dr. David Luce married Francelia Josephine Spitzer at her parents' home in Medina, Ohio on October 11, 1883. They lived their entire married lives in Maquoketa. Francelia and Dr. were members of the Congregational Church, which they joined in 1887. She was very active in church organizations. On several occasions, she was a delegate to the annual church meeting in Des Moines. In 1891, Mrs. Luce was elected treasurer of the Ladies' Society of the First Congregational Church. She was re-elected in 1892 and again in 1894. The Ladies' Society paid for the organist, the organ pumper, and the chorister. In those days, you not only needed someone to play a pipe organ, it was also necessary to have someone to pump the air into the pipes. In 1899, Mrs. Luce was the chairman of one of the ladies' circles and participated in a drama presented by the Ladies' Society called America. In 1912, she served on the committee for pastor resignation and securing a new pastor. Mrs. Luce was mentioned in the 1910 Ellis History as being one of the originators of the Outlook Club. The object of this club was stated as Women's Advancement in Intellectual Culture. They held their first meeting in Maquoketa in 1894, with Francelia serving as one of 3 women who prepared the first course of study. The club had the honor of being the oldest group organized for literary work. In June 1919, Mrs. Luce served with the Jackson County chapter of the Red Cross. She was the chairman of a fundraising dinner for the soldier and sailor boys. And it looks like chicken was on the menu this year. There in that section, she wants to know right now who can donate a chicken and how many you will donate. Please contact her. Later that same year, she was appointed to the Red Cross Committee to secure a public health nurse for Jackson County. Both Dr. and Mrs. Luce were members of the committee that sought to enlarge and improve Maquoketa Cave State Park in 1933, a mission that was accomplished. We know that Francelia helped on this committee, and we're sure she helped Dr. Luce on other projects, especially the library, as education was very important to her. It's just that in this day and age, women didn't get mentioned as much in the newspapers, and men got more of the credit. Francelia's mother, Mary Branch Spitzer, came to live with the Luces after her husband passed away in January of 1891, and stayed until her passing in 1903. While living with the Luces, she fulfilled a promise made to her children that she would document her life story. Francelia hand-wrote the story as dictated by her mother. The manuscript, entitled Memoirs, Mary Branch Spitzer, was donated to the Jackson County Historical Society and contains memories that go back in time almost to the birth of our nation. Francelia passed away on October 9, 1938, at the age of 79 years. She was laid to rest in the Mount Hope Cemetery Mausoleum. At the annual church meeting from January 11, 1939, the following statement was recorded in the meeting minutes. Mrs. Francelia Luce has gone to her reward at her heavenly home. She was one of our most loyal members, and it is with many regrets we are obliged to record her death, for we all miss her congenial presence. And this is the the references that we used to find this information. A lot of newspaper searching. And that concludes our program.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, Alice. That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. As a former member of the United Church of Christ, I've heard of him, but I also was one of those that was born in 1947 when we didn't have a hospital. So I was born in Iowa City.
Wow.
I don't know why, but that's where they took my mom for her delivery date. So July 26, 47. I guess, thank you so much for this program. It was eye-opening and obviously a very amazing man. So thank you very much. We're happy to induct him into our Hall of Fame. We'd also like to encourage you, if you know of somebody that you feel might be eligible to be in the Hall of Fame, the only thing that you have to remember is they have to have been dead for 10 years or longer. I've always thought that was rather odd, but that's a rule that was established a long time ago. But if you know of anybody, you can certainly get a nomination form from Bonnie and fill it out and turn it in. And I've been serving the last several years as the chairman of the Hall of Fame. So we review the applications, and it's amazing sometimes how much people have done in Jackson County for Jackson County and the city of Macokota. So thank you very much for coming. I know you're all anxious to get over and have your dinner, and I think they're all ready for you too. So with that, thank you again for coming, and thank you, Alice and Dennis, for your marvelous, marvelous program. Let's give her another round of applause. Thank you very much.